What is your most successful real estate transaction to date and why?
Um, well, I can obviously talk about the biggest one. The biggest one was a series of parcels of land out by DIA, which is Denver International Airport. Over 40 years ago, when I first started into commercial real estate, my interest was land. And a series of events took me out to the northeast quadrant of Denver. And As things evolved, we started making acquisitions of ground out there. But after making acquisitions of ground, all of a sudden an airport appeared, which created an interesting situation. But about a little over 20, it's now getting to be 25 years ago, we acquired several parcels of land close to DIA. And it did take a period of time, but we were able to finally find a buyer who was willing to buy our assemblage of ground. And it was a $50 million sale. But while it was certainly for me an extraordinary amount of money, it did take a long time. And that was certainly the most painful part of it, was the time involved. But kind of like Henry, once you got there, it was very much worth it. But then I know things like that are not for everybody. Land deals can take a long time, as you well know. I've talked to you about them. Many times. But some of my other deals, which have been income producing properties, and I can think of several of them, have, while they haven't been as big, not nearly as big, they do at this point in time return, 20, 25, 30% cash on cash, or think of getting 20% on your interest for your money in the bank. That's 20 or 25%. That's on levels that Warren Buffett wanted to invest his money at. And if you're doing that, if you can get a couple of income properties that are doing that, that's a home run.
Yeah.
That's a home run. So it just depends what you like to do. With the industrial stuff, you can buy it and make money right away. With the land stuff, you can hit the triples or the home runs, but it could take you time. And they're not creating income streams for you in the meantime. So two different, I like them both. And I've been lucky that I've been able to indulge myself in both.
Yeah.
Yeah, very lucky.
What I thought was cool about that land sale was we sold the ground to a developer who is now constructing 8.
Yeah, I think it'll be ultimately 8 buildings. He's got 2 up right now.
And it's a mega warehouse park.
Yeah. Oh, it's a huge warehouse park. The ground is the parcel that we sold them, the assemblage, has a half-mile frontage on a major east-west corridor at the front door of DIA, and it's a mile deep. So half-mile of frontage on 56th Avenue, and it goes a mile deep. It's 320 acres. It is an industrial park.
Yeah. And if that doesn't tell you something about the future of commercial real estate, where it's going, I don't know what does.
Yeah, well, it's funny because recently I had lunch with a successful industrial broker here in town, and I met him for the first time. He had moved from Montana to Denver to get into the real estate market, got into the warehouse market. And the way I met him was he poached one of my best tenants, But it's part of what happens. He was a young kid. He was going door to door, trying to find business, and one of my tenants, he just needed something else, and Drew took care of business. But I never held it against Drew. Again, it's part of the business. It goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Denver's a pretty small real estate environment, particularly when you get into the industrial sector. Most everybody knows one another, and unless somebody is really difficult or really underhanded, most everybody gets along, and it's going to happen. But I was sharing with Drew how 17 years ago, to talk about a 500,000 square foot warehouse in Denver was, it just didn't happen.
Wow.
Now they're 500,000, 750,000 of a million square foot. And one of the buildings on this project that we assembled and sold, one of the buildings will be 1 million square foot.
Crazy.
And so in 17 years, Drew and I were talking about how the market has changed. It's just been extraordinary what's gone on.
This ain't your local Costco anymore.
No. It has changed.
Wow. Unbelievable. So what do you think 2024 holds for commercial real estate?
Yeah, that's a great question, because for me, because the rates going up, I think there'll be opportunity for me to buy. I've always talked about, for me, there have been buying seasons. That's just what has worked for me, where there's periods where I've acquired properties. I think there'll be, if you've got cash, if you're prepared for it, I think there'll be opportunities out there for you. Other folks, I think, there'll still be some continued pain, but for the most part, I feel in Denver fairly optimistic that things will continue on.
Yeah.
So
it's not all the doom and gloom that you see on the media.
Yeah, I dislike. Well, that may be a little hard, but yeah, the media. What I've learned about the media is, if you've got to go to the papers and learn about it, you're way behind the curve. If a journalist has scooped you, you're in the wrong business. You better be scooping them. You need to be telling them. That's my thought about it. But yeah, the doom and gloom. If you're an adherent to doom and gloom, real estate's going to be a tough slog for you. Because particularly if you're in a growth city like Denver or in Austin or some of the coastal cities, if you really try hard, if you do the things that we've talked about, where you're straightforward, you learn, you're conscientious, you're honest, unless you're really not built for the real estate business, I find it hard for you to fail. But
which really goes to my next question. Say you have all those attributes you just talked about. You'll hustle, you're smart, you're honest, you have sales acumen, you're ethical, you're smart, you're intuitive. But say you have no money or you have no connections in the business. Can you still succeed in commercial real estate?
Oh, absolutely. There are people out there who are looking for people that you've described, people who've made money, people who've made money in real estate, or people who've made money in other businesses. Think Shark Tank again. These are people who've made money. The sharks have made money in a variety of different industries, but they're looking to put money out, and they're looking for those people with those kind of attributes, who are hustlers, who are honest, who do believe, who get it. And it's part of the American dream. And there's no doubt if you've got nothing, because I've seen it way too often in this, I've seen it way too many times where somebody who had absolutely nothing and they utilize those tools we've talked about, and they've really built a life for themselves. So the fact that you don't have money, the fact that you don't have contacts, doesn't deter me. You can do it because I've seen it way too many times. Don't let them. There's something else that bothers me that I hear in this country a lot, that the current or the younger generation will not do as well as their parents. And to me, that's BS. I think it's nonsense. As you well know, I'm in the warehouse business. And what I see, particularly with my smaller tenants, is the folks that have got what I call the immigrant mentality. And the immigrant mentality are the folks who are willing to work, willing to put in the time, willing to put in the energy, don't feel like they're entitled, have long-term perspective on what they're doing, believe in what they're doing, working on a Saturday, working on a Sunday, not worrying about whether your birthday, having your birthday off and whatnot. These folks, and I've seen it, where they build a business and they're successful. They not only do they rent bigger space from me, but a number of them buy their own buildings. A lot of these folks, and something that's really gratifying is where you rent out a small space to somebody and they start their business and they have the hustle and the tenacity and the work ethic. And over a period of 5-10 years, they come to you and they say, "Hey, Izzy, we've had a great relationship, but I'm buying a building." And, while it makes me sad to lose them, it makes me happy that I see them go to the next level. And don't believe it. In this country, it can still happen, but you got to make it happen.
Well, and I think you saw your dad do that.
Oh, absolutely. My dad was uneducated. I think, I'm not sure he went to school past 12 years old. I'm not sure he ever read a book. My dad was an immigrant. That's why I know about immigrant mentality. And for the longest period of time here, he couldn't read English. Ultimately, he did, with the newspaper, teach himself how to read English, but he assembled a small real estate portfolio by work, tenacity, not waiting for somebody else to help him or thinking he was entitled. I mean, every day was a work day. And it still brings a smile to my face because I can remember his accountant and his attorney would sit there and wonder at what he had acquired. And they knew he was essentially illiterate.
Wow.
So if they tell you in this country you can't do it,
you're talking to the wrong person.
Wrong people. Wrong people. Don't listen to it.
Find a new friend.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Getting bad information.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing. Last question.
Yes.
What negotiating or buying tips do you have to give to the viewers that you use when acquiring real estate?
I know there are a lot of books, psychology books or how-to or whatnot. And I'm not saying they're not good. And you can learn things and whatnot, but I have found what has worked for me, and it goes back to what I've talked about before. It is, being simple, being straightforward, being honest, knowing and understanding what I'm doing, understanding my marketplace, and most importantly, and that's why I like this marketplace, is where I can deal one-on-one with the buyer. There's one buyer, one seller. There was a period of time here in the not too distant past when interest rates were really low that there was so much money sloshing around. People were buying real estate, and it was an auction, and it went everything contrary to what I've always done. I've always built a relationship with somebody, built the trust, and just as an aside, and as I look back and at a number of the properties I bought, a lot of the properties I bought were from older gentlemen who are, I'm now 71, people who are in their 70s or 80s who had owned real estate and they didn't have an exit strategy and they needed to sell or wanted to sell. And I was able to build a rapport with them. They knew I did what I said. I was always trying to be honest, straightforward with them. I wasn't trying to take advantage of them. And they appreciated it because they were at a point in their lives where they needed to put that chapter of their life behind them and liquidate the assets they had so they could enjoy their retirement or create a nest egg for their family when they moved on. And I was able to execute a number of deals just in that fashion. No sleight of hand, nothing psychological, just building rapport, being honest, being straightforward, and trying to put the best foot forward. And again, real estate, they got their money, I got a property. Everybody won. It was a win-win. Best deals are where they're win-win. That's what I like.
Yeah. I think it's funny because we have had this conversation a million times in the last decade of working together where I would turn to him and I would say, why do you think somebody's acting that way? Right? I would go for the psychological reasoning behind whatever situation. And you never cared to psychoanalyze people.
Yeah.
And you were like, why does it matter? Just do, but what I find inherently meta and just kind of funny about this is that psychologically speaking, your strategy that is like makes a lot of sense in terms of psychology. Like you get to know them, you build a rapport, you build a trust. That's so much better than a short psychological trick.
Yeah.
It's a long psychological strategy and tactic that for you just inherently was how you transacted without having to pick up a psychology book or a negotiation tactic book to get the abridged version to pull a quick one.
Exactly. Well, again, it just comes back to simplicity. It's do unto others as you'd like others to do to you. Again, very simple, very straightforward. People understand it and they gravitate towards it when they realize that you're being honest about it. And
Well, Dad.
Yes.
Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you. And I want to wish everybody good luck. It's great business. And you'll learn a lot from this gal. I've been very impressed by her.
Regurgitating what you told me.
No, but she's added a lot to the mix. Don't kid yourself. She's done some great things, but she's applied herself. Well, congratulations.
If you want to get a hold of my dad, call him on his cell. No, I'm just kidding. But if you do have any questions, DM me on all social platforms at Aviva Real Estate. If you want to learn more about commercial real estate, I have a free guide in my show notes. Head to the show notes, grab a free guide. Dad, thanks for being on the show. I love you so much.
Thank you. It's been great. Good luck, everybody.
And we'll talk very soon.
Bye now.
Bye. Ready to shatter your glass ceiling while creating legacy and financial freedom? Head to my show notes for our free guide, How to Get Started in Commercial Real Estate.